It cut me off again, so this is the third time. Let's try it again. Elaine is trying to connect with us also, so we'll give it a few minutes and see what happens. So again, if you're out there, there we go. I think we're still there, yeah. If you're out there, just give us a little hey, a hi. Waiting for Elaine. So again, let me start over. Sunday, August 12th, 7 p.m., Totem Pole Playhouse. We're doing a gallery event when Spirit Speaks. So tickets are on sale now. There's Elaine. Elaine's watching. Let me hit her so we can bring her in. In. Unfortunately, I wanted to go horizontal. Hi, Elaine.
Hello.
Took us to that little screen again. I wanted to go horizontal, but it kept cutting me off.
Let's see if I can. Oh, no. What's that?
Yeah.
No.
We have to love live technology. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I've just left the washing up, so I'll have to do that afterwards. I got a bit late. I thought it was 8 o'clock and not 7, you see.
Yes, I hear. Well, we want to thank you for joining us again. You were on last time, a few months ago, and we had so many requests to have you back. So thank you for doing that for us. Everybody loved you and Jonathan last time. So for those for those people who weren't with us last time, can you just explain, Elaine, a little bit about how you got started with Jonathan and started on your spiritual journey?
How I got started, I went over to Ireland, you see, and my father-in-law had passed away, so I wanted him to come through. I wanted him to move something, or, you know, just give us a sign that he was there. The children were put to bed in the hotel, and my ex-husband and me were in the next bed in the same room, you know, so we're all in the same room in 2 double beds. And I thought, well, we're going to bed now. They're all quiet. I'll ask him to make himself known. Nothing happened, so I thought, well, I'll drift off to sleep. And as I drifted off, I don't know what happened. It was really strange. My stomach kind of pulled in, and like it took him all his strength to get through me and all his energy. And then he came through, spoke, and seemed to be saying something to his son. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. I'd only ever seen my dad's physical mediumship. So that's all I really knew much about, you see. And I used to sit with him now and again. So it was pretty weird. So I phoned up Jean Kent the next day, who'd known my mother and father. I phoned her up and I said, well, what's going on? I seem to have like this voice thing through me. Am I, you know, having a nightmare or what? She said, no, it's trance. I said, well, what's trance? She said, well, your father was a physical medium. You should know. I said, well, I didn't know, you see. Sorry about this phone. And
that's okay.
I didn't know. So she explained to me. And then I said, well, who can I go to develop it? And she said, go to Kay Austin. And she told me where Kay Austin was, so I phoned her, and she said, well, you can join the meditation group in the evening for now, and then my trance cruise will be on such and such a date. So I went along to the meditation group, and I thought, oh, I don't like it. I felt a bit of anxiety, and I thought, I don't like being told where I've got to go in this meditation. And it really freaked me out. I didn't like it. So I went about a week or so. I can't remember exactly who it was when I went, but I went back to the trance group, and it just happened straight away. And this man called George had come through, and I thought, what the heck's this? I don't know any George, you know. And he had dropped my face and, you know, dropped the whole side of my face, and my body felt really, really rigid and tight. And I thought, what is this? Oh, I don't like this. And I had to learn how to tell them that if I didn't want their aches and pains that they had in life, not to bring them with them, you see, not to remind me of them or remind anybody else, just to tell them what they had. And so after a few weeks, my neighbour decided to call me into her house, and all her friends had gone. So she said, can you do your trance thing? I said, well, I'm not sure. I've only been doing it a few months. oh, please, she said, I'd love to see it. I said, oh, all right, I'll give it. I said, I'll say a prayer and go into trance. Did all that, and then at the end of it, my guide introduced himself. I didn't know anything about guides, you know. I know that I'd sat in physical. All I knew was the rules of physical mediumship and how to conduct yourself in a physical circle, and spirits come through. That was it. And I don't think anything had been explained to me about guides. So he introduced himself at the end, and he didn't speak like he does now. He was kind of just very expressionless. He was very straightforward, like a robot a bit. There was no expression in his voice. It hadn't deepened, you know. So he just came through and he said, I am Jonathan, Elaine's spirit guide. And the incredible love that I felt was, I've never felt anything like that. And I thought, God, I feel complete unconditional love. I've never felt anything like this before. What is it? And I felt like I'd known him forever. And I thought, well, why did you wait so long? Where have you been all my life, you know? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So what is explain to us, because I know a lot of people don't know, what is the difference between physical mediumship like your dad did, and maybe you could give us like a little example of what happens during physical mediumship, as opposed to what Jonathan does, trance mediumship?
Physical mediumship, you have to be born into it. You know, you have to have the right energy for physical mediumship. You have to have enough of that energy, which can form ectoplasm, which the spirits use to either form themselves for materialization or for physical mediumship, to lift the trumpet, lift any objects. And my dad used to call them ectoplasmic rods, which seem to come from the solar plexus mainly. They use the solar plexus. And I know that one medium, I think that when a loud noise or something went into the circle, the trumpet slammed down to the floor, and the ectoplasm shot back into his body, and the belt he was wearing in his trousers burnt him. So it was as if to say, don't make any sudden loud moves, or don't turn the lights on, things like that. So I knew about all that, and we had to sit in the dark, and it was all blacked out and everything in those days. And we weren't allowed any bags or anything in our pockets. We had to leave all that in the bedroom, in the other room, and go in there and sit. We weren't allowed to touch the trumpet, because if we grabbed that, it could do damage to the medium, you see. So he was.
Now, let me interrupt you just 1 minute, Elaine, because a lot of people don't know here in the U.S. What is the trumpet? I mean, that's an instrument that you use. Like when you do physical mediumship, you are sitting in a room, and is it still dark today, or is that the old school physical
Sometimes today I hear that physical mediumship they use a dim red light. Mm-hmm. Mostly a dim red light, or in a light box, or they use a blue light.
And they use the trumpet as a conductor, correct?
That's right. The trumpet is usually placed somewhere in the middle of the room, and on this trumpet, it's shaped like a sort of like a long conical shape, and at each end of it has luminosity. So it's got luminous tape at the top and luminous tape at the bottom of the trumpet, and it's usually made out of metal. So it's, I suppose, metal is a conductor of energy. So it's made out of metal, and they can be patterns put on it, decorative patterns. But as long as it's got the luminous tape at the top and bottom, so when you switch the lights out, these two ends of the trumpet glow. And so if anybody's hand was on the top of the trumpet, if anybody was cheating and there's a physical hand on the top of this trumpet, they'd be able to see a physical hand holding it. But when it came to me, I examined it, and I was only young. I thought, well, there's got to be somebody holding this trumpet, surely. And I examined the end of the trumpet, and I thought, well, if my dad's hand or anyone's hand in this room was holding that trumpet, then it would cover up the luminous paint. You wouldn't be able to see all the luminous paint, because the physical hand would cover it up. But there was no hand covering that trumpet. All there was like an ethereal mist at the end of the trumpet. And the trumpet was in midair, and it was flying around the room at speeds beyond human comprehension. So there's no way my dad
Right.
in his 50s could run around the room, because he wasn't really a well man, you know. He had back problems, heart problems, goodness knows. But he was fit enough to sit at that point in his life in circle. And he sat for over 30 years. And my mum used
Wow.
to look after him. But that's what they use. And sometimes they place toys in the circle or other objects that might perhaps play music or something that the spirits can press and they might light up. Toys, my dad used to have drumsticks as well in the circle. We'd lay them down, and at the end of the trumpet stick, there'd be luminous paint. So when it was dark, we used to put a biscuit tin in there, and there used to be a spirit come in and play a full drum roll and play
Wow.
the drums. And that would be taken all round the room, up to the ceiling, to the floor. And then I remember a friend of mine, I know him years, and he said, we sat with your dad, and he said, it took 3 men to lift the Christmas tree into the room. This was a Christmas celebration circle. And he said it was really heavy, so it took 3 of us, and we tied the Christmas tree in so it would stay upright. And the spirits came and floated that Christmas tree around the room like it was just a toy one. It was that heavy. But they floated it around the room. They took it out of the bucket somehow and floated it around the room.
That's amazing. And I know people probably find that hard to believe, but when you experience it, it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
So the difference between physical, that's more, as you explained. Now explain kind of your trance, how Jonathan takes over. Does your body feel different? Are you in control still, even though Jonathan's there? Kind of let our viewers know.
I don't go into a deep trance as yet. I think they have plans to take me off eventually, but I am fighting it. I'm not quite used to the feelings. They feel a bit strange, so I do fight it. I'm trying to sit in the circle, and they're trying to take me further away, and it feels really weird. I haven't got used to it yet, so they're doing it bit by bit. But at the moment, I can hear him speaking, but it's like sitting in a room and listening to a conversation between 2 people, and I'm in the middle. So he's sort of behind me in my energy, but yeah, I can feel his face all over my face. It's like a mask. So he puts his features over my features, moves my lips about, and I can feel the whole of his face on my face, and the top half of his body, I can feel that as well. So, yeah.
Now, how did you learn to trust that? I mean, I'm sure that had to scare you. And how do you develop that trust of allowing someone to come into your space that way?
Trust is the hardest part. I'll say that it is. It is really hard. It took me years to trust. Years. I've only just recently started trusting it since after my dad passed. I thought, well, if my dad's over there looking after me, he'll come close to me and look after me. And I didn't have too much to worry about after that. But before, I had my father to worry about. He was very, very ill. And then at that point, I wasn't trusting. And now the trust is starting to come in. And it really feels good. When you trust your guide, it feels good. And it gets better. So anyone that's working with spirit, trust your guide, because your work will get a lot more clearer, a lot more messages will come through, they will be able to speak better. I don't know, it's a bit like you're being true to yourself, because your mediumship is real and it's not fake, all right? So you're being genuine. Whoever is listening to this does mediumship, does trance, whatever they do. Whatever you do in the form of mediumship, trust it and go with it. Don't hold back on anything, because you could be holding back on something that's vital, or that's going to do someone good and help them.
Yeah.
So it has taken me years. I have questioned him. I've told him off. He's got into positions where people, they don't believe and all sorts of things, and he's reassured me. But I've just had a message today. I've just had a message today which has given me even more trust. One lady, she said she came to see me, and everything that Jonathan had said had come true. He told her she's going to have a boy, and she's pregnant with a boy. So I thought, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing though, the validation that comes in. And I think that's the amazing thing of doing this work is, the healing and validation and clarity that Jonathan and you and other workers can bring individuals. And when it's important for us to get that validation. And I think sometimes people forget that.
They do. You do readings yourself, and it must have taken you, I don't know if you did trust straight away, but it must have taken you that time to trust.
I still don't trust. It's hard. I struggle with that, and that's my next question to you. I struggle also with balance and pace, because I feel like sometimes my guide pushes me a little beyond what physical I feel comfortable doing. Do you struggle with that, or is that something? I mean, like I was going to laugh because you said you told your guide off a few times. I've had that conversation more than a few. Like, okay, enough. So, how did you, or are you still struggling with that? I find I still struggle with balance. And knowing when to pull back and knowing when to move forward.
Yeah, that's the it's not pulling back. I'll leave that to him. I've just got to go in, trust him, and sometimes I have held back. He's wanted to say things, and I thought, no, you're not saying that, and you know how it feels. And
yeah,
I could feel my heart. I could feel like a tightness, as if to say, well, you're holding back. It's not going to do you any good. So you feel like that you feel untrusting because you feel like a difference in your body when you're not trusting. So
yeah. And what about your pace? Like how many readings you do? Do you find that he knows your limitations, or do you have to remind your guides of that? Because sometimes I feel like I have to remind them, I'm human and I can't do so many readings, or, do you find that?
He'll say sometimes, oh, she's all right. And I think, well, I feel a bit tired. But he seems to know when I've had enough. He sort of says to people, well, no, Elaine's had enough now. I must bring her back. I must look after Elaine or respect her wishes. But one night I got left in a church, and we started at 7:30 in the evening, and when I opened my eyes it was 11 o'clock.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought I was at home in bed. I literally thought I was in bed. I opened my eyes, I thought, where the hell am I? But for a few seconds I was totally disorientated. I'd woken up in this hall. And I thought, well, they must have taken me further away, being under so long. The longer you're under, the more control they have, because you're relaxing more and they're coming through more. So they become stronger. So, like you say, you've let go. You've kind of forgotten about the mistrust, and you've just let go because you forget where you are first. So you just carry on. And to start with, you might feel a bit cold when you start your readings first. When you sit that person, you kind of think, oh, is it going to go well? Isn't it? I don't know what this person's going to be like. Well, I'll just go with it and see what happens. And you start getting through to them, and then the energy starts to warm up after a while, doesn't it? It starts to warm up.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, and then you start giving the readings nicely, and you kind of forget about the mistrust until something comes up that they ask. If you're sitting there awake doing your reading, and you think, wait a minute, they put me on the spot here. What am I going to do? Panic stations. They want an answer. Well, I can't give you all the answers. Spirit can't give you all the answers. So the best thing to do is tell your clients when they come to you, don't come expecting anything. Just come in with an open mind and see what happens. See what you get. You'll be surprised what comes forward.
That's exactly right. I agree with that. So are you feeling comfortable enough or feeling up enough to let us talk a little bit with Jonathan today?
Yeah, I'm feeling fine. You know, the washing up can wait. That's always going to be there. We're not, are we?
This is true.
Okay.
Okay, so you ready, Elaine?
Yes, I'm ready. I just want everyone to relax and go with it, okay?
Okay.
Hello to you, my dear. Hello.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for allowing us to speak with you.
Why, thank you, my dear. Thank you for having Elaine and I to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely. We always love you. We had you on a few months ago, and everybody was so amazed that we wanted to invite you back. I took some questions from our viewers a little earlier. And Jonathan, people were wondering, can you tell us a little bit about you? And what did you live in physical earth, and what you did here? They're curious, and how you connected with Elaine.
Yes. I lived in the Victorian times, my dear. I lived in Islington in London. And that was Highbury, which was part of Islington. And so I lived until the age of 45, which wasn't a too long life, but I do see that when I got to Spirit, I was very happy with being there and accepting it. But in my life, I worked alongside my father, and we had horses and carriages. We would hire out carriages with the horses, you see, for the gentry, and people would ride them round. And sometimes, if we were a little short with the people working for us, I would have a go at it too, you see. So I often went out on the horse and carriages. And then we became to the point where I didn't really need to do so much of that, but I would be still involved with the business, you see. And so this was wonderful because I got to mix with the horses every day and meet people and what have you. But it was very hard times in the Victorian times. There were many people that would sit on the side streets, spit and polishing shoes for the rich. And they would come round and have rags and water and things to do the shoes with, and they would earn a few pennies. But I would say that I used to throw them some pennies sometimes. I used to throw them some money. Yes. Then I was to meet Mary Ann Ellsworth, who was to come from the north into London to work with us, you see. And she would be one of the few maids that would be working in the home and sorting the place out and doing what maids do. And sometimes she would join in the kitchen with Maisie, who was one of the cooks. And I met eyes with her, and I met eyes with Mary Ann Ellsworth, and I knew that there was some sort of strange feeling that I didn't quite understand, because in those days you only went to church on a Sunday and you didn't do anything spiritual. So I had no idea really of an afterlife situation. All I knew was that when you die, you meet God. That was it. And that was something wonderful, but I didn't understand about this twin soul connection. And so when we met, it was the most wonderful feeling. It was like electric. And she lit up my heart and my whole being was vibrating and with joy. And so she felt that way too, I imagine. And
Wow.
then we would steal moments together. And if my mother and father had found out at the time, well, they would have cast her out of the house. But it went on for a good 8 or 9 years without being noticed, because in those days we could cover up a lot of things. And a lot of the rich men did things underhandedly, you see. But I wasn't rich beyond my wildest dreams, but I was well lived. And we ate well, we lived well. But she came into my heart, and she totally knocked me sideways. And I had never experienced any love that is unconditional like that before. And of course, now that I am in spirit, I do understand it. And then after those 8 or 9 years had passed, she was found out. And then she was cast aside and sent to the workhouses. And my father was disgraced with me because I was married to my good lady wife. And I do believe that, these men would have had these sort of affairs in those days. But this was not an affair. It was something that went beyond anything like that. I couldn't even explain it to myself at the time, but I knew that it was something where I craved to be with her. And every moment we spent together was a moment of total connection, where we didn't really need to say much to each other because everything was said mind to mind. And so then, later after that, I passed to the spirit life. I was out of the street one day just working. I had a pain in my chest, a pain in my arm, and then I felt really dizzy. And the next minute, I was out of my body. I assumed that I'd had a massive heart attack. And wow. At that time, Mary was in the workhouses, so she wouldn't have known about my passing, but she felt it. Because we were twin soul connected, she felt me pass. And of course, she was in a very distressed state at that time, I should imagine. After my death, I felt myself going to her, and I would try to visit her and connect with her, and she would feel me around. She would understand what this was, but not quite understanding of the afterlife, but understanding that she could connect with me in her mind.
Beautiful.
And so as my funeral took place, that was it. She couldn't go along because my lady wife was there. But when she came to the afterlife herself, she came to rejoin me. And we made a pact that she would go back to the earthly life and I would work through her as her guide. And this is where we are today, my dear.
So was this Elaine in another life? Is that what we're...
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing, Jonathan. And people are asking, reincarnation, do we have a choice to reincarnate? Do we sign up for our experiences when we come down to earth, when we reincarnate again? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how that process works?
Well, you will decide that you want to come back and live a physical life again, and you will reincarnate onto the earth. And the moment conception takes place, your soul will enter that being and start to grow inside the mother's womb. But first you will plan every little last detail that you will learn in. You will learn many things in the life, so you will plan how you will learn, how you will grow from that learning, and how it will help you to ascend when you rejoin again on the other side. You even plan how many years you're going to live, right down to the last detail. You even plan a change of mind. Because people ask me, well, Jonathan, I know that we have made a life plan before we come here, but can we turn that around and change our mind? Well, even your change of mind has been pre-planned. I will tell you that.
Wow.
So
we kind of come down with like a blueprint.
Yes, we plan out our parents, friends, relatives, lovers, children, everything.
Amazing. And Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about, people are asking about once our soul transitions and we leave our loved ones here on earth, are there ways that our souls or our beings can connect with those that are still left here on earth to give us signs and symbols that you are okay there? What can maybe the lay person look for as far as communication? What are you able to do and not do? Let's say we don't have a medium or someone to speak through. How
We
does
are able
spirit
to,
send us little?
yes, we are able to affect electricity. We are able to move objects if we are having the knowledge to do so with our spirit and mind. We are able to get through to telephones. We are able to do all sorts of things, my dear. We are able to switch radio things on and off, which has been done. We are able to get the person to glance across to look at something that might have meant something to them and their family. The person that has passed may put a little bit of music on and they would walk into a place where the music reminded them of their family on the other side. All of that sort of thing and more, my dear, yes. Things will turn up out of the blue. Signs will turn up everywhere. Synchronicities is what I call them.
So we just have to basically, in human life, we just basically have to notice.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I feel too. I feel that our loved ones are constantly showing us signs and trying to connect to let us know that they are okay and they are with us.
That is right. You may have a thought impressed into your mind. Anything like that, my dear.
Yeah. And so, Jonathan, another question that somebody is asking, they're asking about mediumship and psychic abilities. Do you think that we are born with this, or this is a gift? Are we all capable of developing this, or are there some people that have more of a potential or more heightened?
It depends on how far advanced you would be, you see. And what your soul had planned to do once it had come here. You may go through several things in life before you come to a point in your life where you have a spiritual awakening and you are able to appertain the gift that you have and take it forward into the world if you wanted to. But some people don't want to do it publicly. They will sit in a circle perhaps every now and again and get the enjoyment out of it that way. We don't always want everybody to go public. It's choice, you see. But we enjoy communicating with you. And not everybody is going to have the same way of working. You may get several mediums that are all doing clairvoyance, say, and they do it in different ways. And they receive the messages from their guides in different ways. So no two mediums are the same. You may line up these several mediums and think, well, yes, they all do the same thing. Yes, I can pick anyone that I want. They'll all do the same thing. But they will work in different ways, all of their uniqueness. They are all unique and special. So sometimes when you are going to go further into the mediumship, you will need to really be planning to come here. If you want to be a trance medium, it's not just going to happen overnight. You may have chosen some other form of mediumship to be led into in your life. But physical and trance are usually really a chosen thing. You will need the physical makeup to be able to do it. But trance is far more common in the way of being more trustworthy than the physical, you see. The physical is far more complex, whereas I will say the trance is easier done in daylight, and physical needs certain conditions.
Are needed for physical mediumship.
That is
what
right.
You're saying.
You need the correct sitters. You need to have the right energy. And those sitters need to be, if they are coming in from the public eye to sit with a physical medium, they need to be looked at first. They need to have their background looked at. They could be anyone or anybody, you see. So they've got to have an inspection first before they can sit, and they've got to be sitting in all honesty and all positivity. The same, I would say, with the trance medium, but it's not requiring such conditions these days. A lot of trance mediums would perhaps want to sit in a dimmed light and just go into trance there. But Elaine and I, or any other medium that is going to go into trance, should be able to sit in any form of light.
and be able to go into trance. Absolutely.
That is right.
Now, Jonathan, someone's asking about our spirit guides. Can you tell us a little bit about, do we have more than one guide? Is there one main guide they're asking? And do guides change throughout our life and throughout our experiences?
It is not the guide that changes. The guide will always remain with you throughout your life. The others are helpers that come in. They are ones that need to learn something from you. You will learn something from them. And they may stay with you through your lifetime, or they may come and go, or they may come to do something that they are wanting to learn through you and teach you as well. And then they will disappear. They will go back and they will not be needed to come to you anymore, you see. So it varies, but the spirit guide will always be with you, no matter what.
Okay, so we have one main guide, and then we have helpers around the main guide, depending on the experiences that we're experiencing life.
Yes, that is right. You will find that if you are going to do healing, perhaps the guide will only want to speak about certain things and do what the guide needs to do, and then other healers will come in and help work alongside the guide, you see. So it's different with everybody, and I will say that your guide will always be there for you, no matter what. If you need them, just call upon them. You are not going to be a nuisance to us because we have eternity, so you're not bothering us.
So what is the best way, someone is asking, that we can get to touch our guides, get in touch or meet our guides? Let's say someone doesn't know their guide and they're wanting to connect to see if they can perhaps develop a relationship. How can they get closer or feel closer to their guide?
The best way to feel close to your guide is to meditate. And a lot of people think that is going to be, well, I've got to sit there 4 hours with my legs crossed. But that is not the case. You could sit for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you choose. But it is asking the guide to come forward and make that connection with you and to impress upon your mind who they are and where they're from and what they're going to give you in life, you see. They will always be with you. But some people like to know who their guides are. And a lot of the guides prefer to make a personal connection with that person they are being the guide to, rather than being told by somebody else. But in some cases, they do not mind. They allow me to come forward and tell the person who their guide is. But it is the guide that will remain with you, and if you want to get in touch with them, meditation, or just tuning in your mind and asking them to come close to you, and they will find ways of making themselves known.
Yeah, and I think it's about trusting too. You know, I don't think that we necessarily need to have a name to our guide, or I think it's more of a feeling or a sense of presence to the guide. I think sometimes we're too caught up in trying to, you know, put facial features or names. I think it's just a sense or an essence of knowing and trusting.
I think that in your world you require an identity, because you live by identification in your world. It is a conditioned thing. You are an identity. And so in our world, we require no identification of physicality or name or anything such as that. But you require it in your world. So we will be more or less looking the same as what we did in our past life. It will be our most recent life that we will identify ourselves with for you, as the spirit guide, you see. So we will give ourselves our name that perhaps we had in that life, and our life explanation that we had in our past lives will come forward in that. And I will say to you that is you here on earth that is requiring the identity. We do not need that, because we are light beings. We no longer require an earthly identity. We go by our past life identities, and we will give that to you as an identity for your earth needs.
Amazing. And Jonathan, people are asking, could one of our relatives be our guides if someone passes away, or is it usually someone different?
Well, you can, if you were born after the person has passed, it is possible that you can have a distant relative for a guide, yes. So you may have your great-great-grandfather or great-grandfather for a spirit guide. If they choose to be your guide and you have accepted that and you had a close bond with them, yes, they are able to be your guide, yes.
Okay. Amazing. And Jonathan, someone is asking about when our loved ones cross over, they're asking, what do they look like? Will they look the same as when they were here on Earth, or will they take on a different form?
If you look at the near-death experiences that are purported on your wonderful computers these days, and they give an experience of how they had a near-death experience, and they will explain the fact that, oh, well, I met my grandmother and all my loved ones came to me. Well, they will present themselves to you in human form because that is how you would have recognized them. But they are actually light beings, you see, so you would only want a recognition of human when you got to the other side. Because you would think, well, what are all these orbs doing here?
Exactly.
So you would want some sort of human look to them, wouldn't you? So yes, many have purported them.
Indigo is asking Jonathan, can Jonathan advise how we know our life purpose? Or how we start to discover our life purpose?
Discovering your life's purpose is usually you are taken into a certain event in your life and it will show up, won't it? Or you will find something that you enjoy doing that you will really find that resonates with you. Or you will be born with something that you are good at. You see, you will bring that to the earth with you and you will have a talent from an early age perhaps, or you may not discover that talent or that spiritual awakening until you are a lot older. Age has no boundaries where spirituality is concerned.
Too bad that doesn't happen here on Earth.
Yes. Age boundaries are only an earthly thing, but I have known people go into their spiritual awakening when they are in their 70s and 80s. So it happens at any point in your life that you will so choose to have it happen.
And Jonathan, someone's asking, are children more receptive to seeing spirit at a young age? We have so many children that can see spirit and are talking to spirit. And are they more in tune at a younger age before their analytical mind starts taking over, as to say someone who gets older? And then we're taught that in some cases, you know, what we're experiencing or feeling isn't really what we are experiencing and feeling.
I do believe that children are less analytic. They are less questionable, unless they are really curious about something. And then they will question it because they want to know the answers to it. But they are more receptive to spirit because they haven't been away from the spirit world for very long. You will find that babies will glance up and smile at something that seems to not be there to the naked eye, but maybe they can see spirit, and the spirit is smiling back at them, and they are chuckling back at them, you see. So children are very receptive, and some of them are a little afraid, you see. They're not so used to the spirit coming through. But the majority of them have no fear, unless it is going to be something sinister, of course. But most of the spirits are coming from the light, so they are presenting themselves as normal human beings, and the child sees that as something not out of the ordinary, but they see it as something normal.
And someone is asking, Jonathan, they said they have a baby monitor in their child's room, and they're talking about they hear spirit voices on the monitor, or that's what they're wanting to know. Are these voices from spirit? Can spirit use electronic equipment such as tape recorders and baby monitors? And is it really spirit that's on there?
Yes, it is, yes.
And is there a purpose? What are they trying to tell us? Or are they just
they are trying
to
tell us that they are giving love to that little baby or that child. With the baby, there is such purity, there is such innocence. they have had past life experiences, so they are very old souls that are in that little body, you know. They have much
Yeah.
knowing and understanding of the afterlife before they are conditioned into your world. But yes, spirit do come through because perhaps they are watching over the baby and protecting it, and they want to make the baby smile, make them happy. They are going to be with them, watching over them, much like they are watching over all of you.
Amazing. And Jonathan, Nina is asking, do you have an explanation, or what are shadow figures? I'm not sure.
Well, I think that shadow figures are the outline of spirit, aren't they? They are spirit trying to show themselves, but they do not want to show themselves in full formation for fear of frightening somebody. But sometimes shadow spirits can be a little bit daunting if you're not knowing who it is.
Correct. Okay. Well, Jonathan, is there any words of wisdom that you have for us today that you want to share, you and Elaine would like to share with our audience today?
Well, you were talking about trust, and that can take some time, being in human form. We are understanding of that. If you want to question us, if you want to tell us off, we do not mind. The more you trust, the stronger the mediumship will become, the more clarity it will have. And if you are doing trance, then if you are trusting, then the guy can blend far greater with you and far easier than what the guy could if you weren't trusting. It's like putting a brick wall in front of a lorry that wants to drive through. And if it's not going to be able to drive through that brick wall, it's going to block the way of the lorry, you see. So the spirit guide needs to work through a clear channel. You see, it needs to work through. And if that channel has interference or blockages, then the messages that are most vital cannot come through. Doubt, you see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel too, someone's asking, when you're feeling very tired or you're not feeling well, or if you're doing light work and you have a difficult situation in your life, that's not a good time to do a reading, correct, Jonathan?
There will be times in your life when you cannot be expected to be perfected all of the time. You cannot be expected to answer all of the questions all of the time. You are only human, and if you are tired, yes, it can have an effect on the mediumship. Yes, very much so, because you are not in full concentration. You're not tuned in properly because you're wanting to go to sleep. You are tired. So the best time to do it is when you are in tip-top condition. You see.
Yes. Jonathan, someone's asking about what happens in cases of suicide. They're concerned they've had a family member that passed away due to suicide, and they want to make sure that, is it a different process than when we transform, just say from, a health issue?
It differs in many ways. You see, they do end up going to the light. Sometimes they may hang back until their funeral takes place. They may have guilt within them, and they are hanging back and feeling bad about what they have caused. But sometimes, my dear, this can be mental illness that causes a person to take their life, and that is no fault of their own then, is it? Life is so beautiful and it is so perfectly valued. And sometimes people just simply cannot cope with life. And they cannot find the answers. They don't know where to go, so they take their life. So what happens is they will come into the light, but it may take a little longer for some of them. They may hang back because they are seeing the grief of their parents. They are feeling a little remorse about that. They are feeling a little lost. But they will be taken into the light, my dear. The angels will take care of them. Sometimes they will go aside and want to think for themselves about what life has been all about and how they could have sorted it out if they were here. But the angels are there, and they are there to take them into the light if they so wish to go there.
And Jonathan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We were talking a little bit about how when we reincarnate, we have our life experiences picked out. So would this be one of say someone chooses, I mean, do we choose our own passing if someone?
Yes, you do. Yes, that is all pre-planned, my dear. So maybe the soul would say, well, at that point in my life, I'm going to come back. I'm going to get to a point where I feel that I've had enough, and that will be it. I will come home again. But I will be able to choose to come back into any life I choose when I am ready to do so. Or you will find that sometimes the soul has a plan to come here, but simply cannot cope with the plan that they have planned, and they want to come home again.
And an audience member is asking, Jonathan, boy, they're giving you some tough ones today. They're asking about miscarriage. What is the reason that a child chooses or a soul chooses not to go through the process once they have started the process?
There are many miscarried babies in spirit, and sometimes the physical body is not always made up perfectly. Sometimes the pregnancy goes wrong, and they have planned to come here, and the baby and the pregnancy is not quite right, my dear, so the baby cannot stay alive, and it is miscarried for the mother's safety, and then it goes back to the spirit life. It is a soul that has come into a new life, and it is perfectly accepting that when it goes to the earth, that if something is not right with the body, it will have to return. But then the family will be grieving about that, but they will eventually learn to come to terms with it and to move forward with their lives and perhaps learn something from it.
Yeah, it is all about learning, isn't it? Every experience that we have, it seems to be about learning, whether the experience be positive or negative. And, it's just about moving forward and learning and healing and maybe teaching others.
Negative comes through to positive, you see, if you allow it to. Some people hang on to that negative all of their lives and they're not willing to let it go. They want to hang on to it. They're afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone. But out of the negative can come the positive if you're going to battle through it. And you will still be standing when that has all been done, my dear, but it will make you stronger. And it will also make you more empathic to other people's troubles, won't it? You will have a greater understanding of others' needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even in our darkest hours are probably one of our greatest, I always say, our greatest teachers. Not that we don't learn from the positive, but I feel like in my life, or at least I feel I've learned from all the hardest things that I've had to go through. And it's really taught me to be more compassionate, more empathic to people, more a caring individual. So there is some positive in all the negative.
Oh, there is, yes.
Jonathan, someone is asking, has Jonathan written any books? And if so, what's the names? Or do you have any plans to do any writing of books of your knowledge?
Elaine feels ready to start that sort of thing. I think that when her life is a little more settled and she has a little more time to do that sort of thing, she will sit down and think about how she's going to go about writing the book. And I will be there to support her and guide her all of the way. So there is going to be a book, but she needs the time to sit down and think about how she's going to plan it out.
Yes. Well, Jonathan, we don't want to keep Elaine under too long. And I mean, we could keep you here all night because everybody's just loving you and there's so many questions.
Life is full of curiosity, isn't it?
Yeah, I do find that. But we just want to thank you again. And as always, it's just always a pleasure to talk with you. And you bring so much just in our little, FaceTime live interviews that we can do. I think we really bring so much healing to some people and comfort and just knowing, just exploring a little further than our senses here. So we want to thank you for that.
You are most welcome, my dear, as always. I will speak to you again sometime.
All right, Jonathan. Thank you.
God bless you all.
You back, Elaine?
Yeah, knackered, but back. I'll be all right in a minute. It just takes a few minutes to come round. And
That's okay.
oh,
We want to just thank you so much. It's just always a pleasure to talk with Jonathan, and our audience is always so curious. And he's just amazing in his answers, and we thank you for allowing us to experience you and Jonathan. You have so much to teach, and so much, your work is just amazing. And Elaine, in ending, I just want to say, if are you doing private readings? If someone wants to
yes, I
have a
do.
private,
I do private readings. A lot of people come to me through Messenger, telephone, or the
okay,
email. I think the Messenger or the email is probably easiest for them. I don't know, but they can get through to me on the Facebook if they want to book something with me, or if they're interested in like demonstrations in the UK and things. Sometimes I can work things out there. Yeah,
okay,
that's the best
perfect.
way.
And folks, I will post all of Elaine's information so that you can contact her through email or through Messenger. And also, I will post information about Elaine's spiritual art, because she does some amazing, amazing artwork. And she does sell those paintings and creations. I have one, and I'm soon to get another one. I'm just waiting for that right one. So I'm going to give information on that too. And if you've not seen Elaine's artwork yet, it is just truly, truly amazing. And thank you for that work, Elaine. I look at my picture; it's in my office, and I look at it, and it just inspires me every day. So,
That's one of my favourite ones, actually. I really enjoyed doing that. The
oh,
result
I
was
love
better
it.
than I expected.
Yeah, and we have folks. I just want to say we have. Last time we had Emma on, we had such a horrible time with FaceTime
Oh dear.
with the live. Yeah, so Emma is going to come back on August 19th, and I'll have more information about that. She's a wonderful, wonderful, gifted young lady. I just had
Oh, she
my
is. She's
guide
a
done by
lovely soul.
Emma.
She's
She's
a lovely
amazing.
soul, she is. Do you know she's drawn
She's,
your guy with a top hat, hasn't she?
yes.
Do you know what? I
Yeah,
looked at that and his face looks like my father's face. His eyes look
really.
like my dad's eyes, honestly. I'm no kidding.
That
Obviously
it's
he didn't have
amazing.
any hair, but he did wear a top hat, but that looks when I look at that resembles my dad a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm so excited. And Emma's also doing a drawing for my husband, and she gave me a glimpse of that drawing, and wow,
Yeah,
it's just
here's
amazing.
mine. Here's mine that she did for me. That's my one.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, isn't it nice? She's really
Beautiful.
good at drawing. It's so soft. She's done the
She is.
drawing.
She's
I don't know how
and
she
the
does it.
detail. But yeah, we're going to have her on, and she's going to be, she might be on with her mom, Yvonne Perry. They're going to be talking about the White Feather Center and what they're doing there, and talking about her art and reading and any other questions that you have. And hopefully it'll go much smoother this time around. I'm not real good with all this technology, so I'm still trying to figure it out. So thank everyone for their patience. And so again, Elaine, we want to thank you, and I will be posting all of Elaine's information, and you've got to take a look at her artwork. She is just amazing, and obviously her readings are amazing. I was experienced readings, and several of my friends have had readings, and just love you to death. So,
Oh, thank you. I
and
just
we have.
wanted to say your hair looks nice. I've been looking at your hair the whole time, and it looks really nice.
Thank you. It's a mess today. It's raining here, and it's humid, and I keep playing with it because I look at it and I keep thinking, ugh.
It looks really
But
nice. It looks. I
uh,
love the way the fringe sweeps across because I used to have my hair a little bit like that years
yeah.
ago,
Well, thank
and
you.
it looks nice. I like the style of it. It really suits you.
Thank you so much. Well, Elaine, we will let you go, and again, we appreciate you and everything that you do. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Okay.
All
Thanks, Charla.
right, Elaine. Bye bye.
Bye.